Okay. Jesus Christ, why my voice crack? More lemonade. There we go. All right, proper way to start a video. All right, as I'm gonna talk for the rest of the video. No. So apparently, not apparently, this is you're gonna try to petty fog in the beginning of this. This is a big deal. The Concord situation is this is a monumental moment in gaming history. And anyone who fails to recognize that realistically you're not paying attention to the industry, you don't really care about stuff, you just play games to play games, who gives a fuck? Hey, that's fine. Enjoy your life. But realistically, to the people who care, and the ones who matter, the people who care are the ones who matter. But to those people, what has happened was a big deal. Concord was a game that was published by, now if you don't know, little quick recap. Concord is a game that was published by Sony for the PS5 and Steam. The open beta, the game looked incredibly unappealing. It first got released, it first got showcased during the PlayStation showcase. I want to say about a year or two back. And it was met with just the most abysmal of engagement. So much downvotes for that PlayStation showcase. The majority of the showcase itself, rather than having multiple games, it was strictly just mainly focused on Concord. It was very bad. It was very, very bad. It was very bad, and it just looked like a bland, pathetic, whatever hero shooter. The only thing that was done at the showcase was that it just had a cinematic trailer. You didn't really get to see gameplay or anything like that. That came later. Upon them showing that, you then had the most ridiculous approach from gamers towards this game before it came out, where it was just massively downvoted, massively picked apart and talked about. You had characters that had pronouns in the bio that a lot of people disagreed with. The character design was incredibly disgusting and ugly, which a lot of people didn't like. There was so much that went on with that game just on an appealing level. Even when it showcased the actual gameplay itself in their little trailer, it was just very uninspiring. It was bland, by the book hero shooter, coming off the heels of trying to do what Overwatch did, which was very obvious. And then you had an assortment of characters which was trying to copy Guardians of the Galaxy, which was also very obvious. Not saying that those things are bad, but it was obvious that's what they were trying to do. But at the same time, the execution of it was terrible. So then we get to present day. The game releases in an open beta not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago actually. And the open beta was, excuse me, I'm thirsty. But the open beta was met with a terrible engagement. Now, you can't do PlayStation numbers, but people were able to ascertain exactly how much people wanted to play this based off of Steam numbers, because you can check shit on Steam. And essentially everyone got to see that even at the height of playership, at the height of its open beta, you had at least, I want to say it was like 600 people playing, and that's not even the full game. And then it's like, and the numbers kept decreasing day after day for the open beta, to the point where they started to actively beg people to try and play the open beta, which a lot of people criticized and talked about the fact that where you couldn't even try to play the open beta because the matchmaking was very bad. So then you jump to recently, where the game finally came out and people were actually able to play it. And then upon them actually playing it, you can check the Steam numbers, to which they were able to find out that upon its release, the maximum number of people who played the game was around 200. And day after day, it kept getting less and less, to the point where even now, it's around like in the fucking 80s. And this is all based off of Steam numbers. So again, this was something that Sony produced and released for the 5 initially, and as well as Steam. And so then it's like, again, you can't check Sony numbers. But people were able to bring up the fact that you can check trophies within PlayStation, to where you can see the amount of people who actually play and have the game versus the amount of trophies that you get, and then it has a percentage for actually obtaining said trophies. For PlayStation, one of the well, because this game was incredibly, made with the idea of being lame. One of the early trophies you can get in the game is actually getting just a kill, playing any game mode in any way, shape, or form, doing anything. You just get a kill, and then you get a trophy. The percentage of people who actually obtained this trophy was around like 8%, 8 or 13%, I believe. Overall, from the amount of people who actually had this game or download this game or even tried to play it. So that basically put in a number of essentially letting people know that even though a lot of people even bought this game, if they tried to buy this game, they couldn't actively get the trophy or play the game to get the kill. So letting you know exactly, even though they might have purchased the game, they still didn't play the game. So now we've gotten to a point where Sony has released an article to let everyone know that they themselves are sorry. They feel bad. They hurt their feelings. They want everyone to know that essentially, like this shit is weird, but they wanted everyone to know that essentially they're canceling the game. Like, now, this is a game they spent 8 years of development in. 8 years. And then only being released after 10 days. They're shutting everything down. They're getting rid of the servers. They're refunding them. They're refunding the money for anyone who purchased it on Steam and on the PlayStation Store by any means. And they're giving everyone their money back. Now, this is an indication that they might take the game, because again, it is still a fully functional game. It's just nobody's playing it. Now, there's an indication that it might be free to play and that, they might try to make their money back that way. But again, they supposedly spent over $200 million for this game. Let that sink in. $200 million for a game that, upon the active appeal towards trying to get players to want to play it or people to actually be engaged or care about what it is that they got going on, there was nothing. They were met with nothing. The 100 people playing a game that cost, what was it, like $60, 70, whatever it is that they charge, 100 people paying that does not make up $200 million. Okay? 100 people paying $70 does not equal $200 million. All right? So it's a game that basically was meant to be a live service game, meaning that they intended to make their money back well over throughout the game actually staying relevant. So that's not gonna fucking happen. Now, whether or not, you have a bunch of people that essentially are out there right now who believe that, well, maybe they'll be able to come back. They might bring the game back or anything like that. The game is unappealing on just a visual level. The characters look terrible. The aesthetics of it look horrible. The customization of it is really bad. The color palette is really bad. The characters are just unbelievably bland and just so unbelievably uncompromising that there's no reason whatsoever to even assume that people would want to engage with something like this. It's just bad looking. And then you have one of the massive appeals or major things that they wanted to promote for the game was that every week you'd get a brand new cinematic trailer. Yippee skippy. Every week you were going to be met with this beautiful, just beautiful fucking, unbelievably, I don't know, like 2-3 minute video or whatever that's just about nonsense revolving around these characters doing fuck all in order to try and understand or grow the world and whatever, because they assumed that was the major appeal behind Overwatch, because that's all that this was, is an Overwatch clone. They call those hero shooters, but it's all it was is an Overwatch clone. Now do not get this misconstrued. Overwatch does have cinematics, and they were popular to the overall fan base of Overwatch. but that wasn't the massive appeal of Overwatch. Let us not forget that, because this is why this is so monumentally amazing yet stupid at the same time. Let us not forget, there was already another hero shooter that tried to challenge Overwatch that failed miserably. It was called Battleborn. Now that actually had unique characters, unique little looks and whatnot, crazy aesthetic, fair but fine gunplay, but still got overshadowed because of Overwatch. Now the overall thing behind that is the fact where it was like, well, you have essentially right now Overwatch being the bottom of the barrel of a hero shooter. You got Marvel Rivals about to come out that a lot of people are excited for, and you essentially have Overwatch 2 killing its own fan base because of its ridiculous predatory practices. So it's fucking prime time to jump in and take over the hero shooter genre with an actual good hero shooter that would have did better than what Overwatch did, where, oh, I don't know, you add a fucking PvE mode, which is everything that people who played Overwatch 2 were just wanting. So you add a PvE mode, and aside from a PvP mode, you give the 6v6 type of fighting, and then you just have interesting, beautiful, nice looking characters with an aesthetic that makes people want to pay all of the macro transactions that you got, because don't say micro, because you know you were gonna have to pay out the ass. Now this was an unbelievable fucking layup. Just a ridiculous, unbelievable layup. What the fuck? Oh no, my computer. But this was an unbelievable layup, only because of the fact that, again, everything that I just mentioned would have been just fantastic for them to have made so much money. This would have made so much money because of this. Now, the fact remains that despite their better intentions, Sony essentially had this team develop this game for over 8 years, and they looked up nothing. I mean, nothing. Because 8 years. 8 years. That's a long fucking time, right? A long time. So, because what is it? It should have been, the game essentially would have came into development around 2016. This is before the lockdowns. Before, dude, you got to see what happened to Battleborn before you decide to make this game. You got to see the other hero shooters that came out to try and go against Overwatch and fail before this came out, and then you decide to release your game when Overwatch is actually failing. What the fuck? This is such a big deal. $200 million. $200 million. And this isn't some offset developer fucking up like a lot of other times they've had these things happen. No, this is Sony themselves actively releasing a game and failing miserably. Miserably. Like, it's just so bad. So bad. But okay, I finally found it. So I'm able to actually read the fucking letter. Because this, and then I believe this is like the first game to come out of this studio as well. It's called Firewalk Studios. I believe this is like their first game that, you know, Sony got, like, this is one of their studios. They got them to do this game, and they've been in development for 8 years, and essentially they thought it was going to be released as a massive hit. But before I read the little letter, let me break down the timeline of the 8 years thing. Like I was saying, you know, you got to see Battleborn, other hero shooters fail miserably to Overwatch. You actually was around where Randy Pitchford got kicked out of Blizzard. So when they did Overwatch 2, when it became the game that everyone hated, you were still in development. You still got to see that when they were promoting Overwatch 2, when they were telling everyone we're going to have PvE, and that everyone was screaming at the top of their lungs that that's something that they wanted. And then they did not deliver that. You got to see that live. You got to sit there and tell, with the fact that you had a video game that no one knew anything about. They didn't know it was being released. They didn't know it was coming out. And then you had everything under wraps, and you could have definitely looked at that and went, hey, can we add modes where essentially it's damn near like the arcade modes of the fighting games of yesteryear, where it's like you just have your character going around single-handedly shooting a bunch of random NPCs, and then they get rewarded for this shit with some points that they can then use if they grind. They can then use that to fucking purchase cosmetics, or they can pay for the shit, you know? Simple fucking things like that. And it's like, you could have added that to your game, and you would have made stupid money, because that would have been everything Overwatch 2 wasn't. Actually fun and interesting maps, cool character concepts, cool designated storylines that you can then act out in their own little PvE mode or whatnot, if you decided to do that. But you wanted to focus on fucking cinematics, because those randomly pop up for Overwatch whenever they're like releasing a brand new character, sort of giving some insight to shit like that. Not understanding that one of the major things that people enjoy about the cinematics is that essentially they're just kind of, they're nice Blizzard cinematics. They've done that for like World of Warcraft and shit like that. They're known for doing that for years. It doesn't mean that it invokes or inspires people to give a fuck about the lore of Overwatch. It's just some things that they had that are just, it's fine. But the game itself was a playable, intuitive, interesting concept. So seeing those cinematics wasn't the major draw of Overwatch. It was just a nice little feature. But again, when asked what it is that players wanted in another Overwatch, all they asked for was just a different mode of game. Like a different mode of gameplay. I mean, and they did not deliver that. And then people were entirely upset, and they just were met with predatory practices, which they hate, as well as bad server attention, which leads to waiting in queue for just some player matchups to even fucking happen. And then you have to grind endlessly just to get certain cosmetics for certain characters if you wanted to even play with particular characters that you also had to pay for. Shit gamers don't like was put into Overwatch 2, and then they still play Overwatch 2. Your game was something gamers don't like. They didn't even fucking play it. Do you not realize how stupid you have to be in order to make something like that happen? Just, it's so bad. But let me read the little fucking Concord thing, the little letter. Let me wet my whistle real quick. Woo! Okay, now this is from Ryan Ellis, who is the game director of Firewall Studios. You know, essentially the main person behind this massive fuck up. But yeah, I knew this was going to be a longer than average video, but I had to do it because, again, this is a monumental gaming moment, and whether or not you fail to recognize that this is beyond reproach on exactly how big of a deal this is going to have within the echoes of video games to come after, because this is not going to be swept under the rug. $200 million lost over a ridiculously woke concept of a game design. Not the game itself, but the design of the game, the overall look, appeal, and even the audience that it tried to grab was all done with the agenda. And the thing is that those people did not play those games. Like the people they were trying to appeal to don't play fucking games. And so that's why no one played this, because it was not designed for anyone else except for those people that they wanted to reach. And you got to see firsthand what the fuck that audience is. Now, geez, I keep digressing. Okay, read the letter. But again, like, let that shit like stick with you and understand exactly how big of a fucking deal this really is. But from the game director of Firewall Studios, Ryan Ellis. This is actually they put this on the PlayStation website, or the PlayStation blog, if you will, blog. I don't know why I said it like that, but the PlayStation blog. But Concord fans, there are no Concord fans. That's why the game failed. So whatever. and best believe this letter is going to be disingenuous. I heard Cyrell read it, as well as Legacy Killer HD. He read it as well, but it's like, and you know, it had to look in all the little gaming media things that you needed to. I'm waiting for Upper Echelon to make a video about this as well, because Lord knows he's gonna go in. But yeah, I digress. Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC, and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. You can only assume that the North Star is the name of the ship on the game. You can only assume, because no one's played the game, so no one knows. And again, it's like, you're listening to feedback. The feedback was that no one wanted to play your game. There's nothing to listen to. No one was giving corrective criticism. No one played the game, and even if you tried to play the game, you couldn't play the game because none of the game modes actually worked. Because again, no one is playing the game. So it's such a shit show. It's so terrible. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. There isn't any. There isn't any. There's nothing. You see how disingenuous this letter is? It's like you couldn't remove yourself further from any type of accountability for the fact you made a shitty game no one wanted to play. There is no community. There's no one talking about this. There's no one who likes this. People who support this are the minorities of minorities. The people who don't like this, let alone even care about this, is a massive amount. Oh, if you could only have those people play the game, oh, you'd be fine. You wouldn't even need to write this goddamn article. I mean, this blog. But I digress again. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, no, they didn't, because they didn't play it. So no one liked it. No one liked it. It was very bland, it was very by the books, and it was boring, and then it just happened to be ugly, plus with a lot of agenda pushing on top of it. But massively ugly. Never forget that. Resident players. We also recognize that the other aspects of the game in our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. Now, that's funny to me, because they use land, and then they're talking about a spaceship. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. I'm gonna keep going. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th. At the point of me recording this, it's September 4th. That's 2 days away. So remember, it just came out. This game just came out. This game just released. Over $200 million most likely spent on it. Who knows how many fucking cinematics they've made with the voice actors and motion cap and shit like that they were going to release. Oh, before I forget, they're putting, they got an episode of Level Up, which is a new Amazon Prime show that's coming out based off of video games, and they're going to be little short anthology series. So each episode is going to be about a different video game character, and there's a whole episode designated to Concord. When I tell you this shit is bigger than you could possibly fucking imagine, there you go right there. Dude, how much money do you think PlayStation shelled out in order to make Amazon make that fucking episode? Because there's no reason that they would ask them to make it, because the game wasn't even out by the time that they were making this shit. No. It's like, this is some shit that would have made sense if they did something like Overwatch. But again, Overwatch has been around for years. Yes, they're known for their little cinematics or whatnot. Overwatch, World of Warcraft, whatever the fuck you would want from Blizzard, aside from a brand new fucking game that came out that had no attention on it whatsoever. For some reason has an episode designated to a show that's about long-standing, well-known video games having little short cinematics. Fuck out of here. Whew. So much money has been wasted for nothing. Oh my goodness. This is, man, passionate about this shit. Passionate. And it's like, all you can do is point and laugh. Look at what you did. Look at what you did by thinking you knew better. By, for 8 years, keeping your head down and your eyes closed to everything around you that should be screaming to you, this shit won't work. And you're gonna have so many dumbass developers that essentially are in the same type of echo chamber, gonna sit there and tell you, I feel sad about all the developers that might get fired. And it's like, no, they deserve to be fired. They fucked up. They fucked up their one job. Their one job was to make a game that people wanted to play. That is your job. Whether or not you artistically want the game to have this in it or have that or have this, they did that. And then you come to find out that the audience that you need in order to pay for said game didn't like it. You are the bad guy in this scenario, not the audience, not the consumers, not the people who play games because they couldn't understand your vision. No, your vision wasn't worth a damn because games are art. Never forget that. But that art needs, when it comes to video games, that art needs an audience. And the thing is that because that's the only way that you can pursue or to keep the video game cycle itself continuously going, you need an audience. So if you don't resonate with an audience, that game does not need to continue. That's how that works. That's how that fucking works. That's why we have Mario. That's why we have Nintendo, Pokemon. We got fucking Jack and Dexter, Naughty Dog, and the fucking Nathan Drake games. Is that Nathan Drake games? Uncharted. We have so God of War. We have so many different IPs that exist that have been able to withstand the testament of time because they had built up a fucking audience that it will indulge in those games regardless of what you fucking do to them. God of War is a perfect example of that because the new PlayStation God of War is different from the original, but there's still an audience for that character to see him do what he does and the gameplay. I might not like it, but still can't deny that it exists and that people actually enjoy it. I can't deny that. I just have my own opinions about it, but I can't deny that it's pulling numbers, that it has fans, it's done all that. But where was that for this game? It didn't exist because the people that you assumed were going to play your game didn't exist. So you got what you got. Nothing. You got nothing. You spent money on what you thought was going to be something and you got nothing. But it's not as if you weren't aware of everybody screaming at you that this is what it is that they don't like in games and this is what it is that they do like in video games. And you made a particular game based off a particular genre that dealt with particular things that had a particular fan base and you ignored all of it. Now you got what you got. Not a fucking thing. Jesus Christ. And again, $200 million is nothing to scoff at. Not within video games at that. And by a major publisher like Sony. This is not going to end well. This is not going to go like, again, it's not going to be swept under the rug. I keep mixing my words. This is a big fucking deal. Okay. Let me continue. It's like, it just makes me want to fight somebody or something. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline. It's September 6th. Okay, yeah, I already said that. And explore, and we're going to take it off beginning September 6th, 2024. And explore options, including those that will better reach our players. That could only mean that they might make this free to play. Because again, $20 million was wasted. They will not just scrap $20 million. They might make this free to play. The problem when it comes to making this free to play is the fact that it doesn't have an audience, period. And then there's nothing appealing about the game on a general spectrum. So because of that, just trying to release this as free to play, having all of that stuff in it, and then essentially they're going to microtransaction the fuck out of it to try and make up some of the lost money. All of that is going to be met with a negative response because they're not going to change the game. The game is not going to get an overhaul. They're not going to get a different design. They're not going to have new characters or anything like that because they're in too deep. But they need to get something out of this. So if they were to massively change and redesign the characters, that'd be fucking stupid because that would cost so much goddamn money. At that point, you're better off just making a brand new game. If you took the time to reskin everything and just use the simple mechanics that it had, change up a couple of the maps or whatever, don't call this Concord. Make it a brand new game and make it free to play. And then there you go. Yeah, then you can salvage what Concord fucked up. But essentially what they're going to do is just make Concord free to play. And that's going to be met with another negative response because there is no player base. Regardless of it costing money, there is no player base. Nobody wants to play this game. So even though that it costs what it costs, the people who did buy it, those were the people who were willing to play this game. That's what you got an image showing you that. These are the people who are willing to play this game. This is how many people are willing to give us money to play this game. Once you saw those numbers, it should have been a huge indication that there is no fucking way we can amass our money back based off of this player base. Because no one wants to play this. And you can't sit there and argue, well, if it was free to play, we probably would have had more people in it. Sure, probably. But I would just say half of what it was that you got to actually spend money on it. Because games exist now that you have to spend money on, single player games. So you only get a little bit of enjoyment out of. And people have shelled out buku's amounts of money on those things. So because of that, you are working with an assumption that essentially, oh, if it's free to play, we'll get some more money. But it won't be enough to cover a $200 million loss because no one wants to play this. You did not see 1,000 players playing this game and then realize that it couldn't cover the $200 million. And then you decide to back down. You saw hundreds of people wanting to play this game. That is nothing in the scope of a video game. Nothing. So because of that, yes, no, this is not on a level of where this is salvageable. If you make it free to play, that's not going to work. You need to cut your losses, get your ass that tax break by saying that this is a fucking flop, and then move on. Use that game and reskin it, and then you might be able to salvage something to where you don't have to work as hard for another hero shooter. But you need to wait at least 3 years. I would say wait 3 years. Well, I'm pretty sure it will take at least that much in development to reskin everything. And then release that as a free-to-play game, courtesy of Sony, and you just make it balls out ridiculous. There you go. Then you can make your money back from Concord. And again, it's still gonna take a minute. But why listen to me? I just play video games and know what the fuck I'm talking about. Now, while we determine the best path ahead, they're gonna make it free to play. Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PS5 and PC. Nigga. Do you not understand how crazy this is? When has there ever been when has there ever been something to where it's like a game was so bad they were like, we'll give you your money back, even though you bought it and wanted to play it, we'll give you your money back because the game can't be a game anymore. The last time PlayStation did this was for Cyberpunk 2077, and that's because that game was literally unplayable. It was a buggy mess. On the PS4, you might as well have just broken your disc. And then if you downloaded it, you was just fucked. Because it took up stupid amounts of space and you couldn't play it. And it was met with such harsh criticism for being as bad as it was. PlayStation finally buckled under the pressure and decided to give away refunds. And the people who essentially bought it by other means, I want to say they didn't give a refund if you bought it on Steam. But it was just so much that was like, yeah, they were forced into doing something like this. They're taking the initiative to do this. Nigga. This shit is massive. I'm telling you, this is ridiculous what's happening. Now, let me continue. If you purchase the game for PlayStation 5 from the PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method. Customers who purchase from other digital storefronts will also be refunded. More information about the refunds from Steam and Epic can be found below. once, and then it gives details on that. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. They're shutting down the servers. All right. We'll keep you updated, and thank you again for all the free gunners who have joined us in the Concord galaxy. That is the blog. That is the blog from the game director. That is the fuckery incarnate, my friends. That is beautiful. Is what it is. It's just unbelievably beautiful. I've really, like, I've stressed it out as much as I could. This is going to go down in history. You're going to have so many different developers and companies just look at this as an example of what not to do. And you're going to have so many of these fucking woke, ridiculous developers that have been making these games for all this time that essentially you got the new fucking Tomb Raider coming out for a modern audience. The modern audience ploy or tagline is going to be destroyed because you have firsthand seen this shit don't work. Again and again and again. But now you've had a fucking developer understand that even though we put in the time, the effort, the money, and we let that modern audience shit fly with a brand new IP that's not based off of something else that can get fucked over, Spider-Man 2, what happened? Nothing. We got nothing to show for it. We got no fans. We got nobody playing the game. We are down in the hole $200 million fucking dollars over some stupid shit that could have easily been avoided if we just would have took our head out of our ass and understood California is not the rest of the world. No one wants to play a game where you're an old lady with purple lipstick, or a ugly fat black chick with purple lipstick, or a purple-haired black chick with poof balls on the side and glasses, and purple lipstick. They're ugly. We don't want a robot with a he, him pronouns in his intro bio. Just, oh my goodness. And even to the people who did play the game, they got the numbers to see that a majority of people who played the game wanted to play the game as the regular white guy. To which they have a game mode that makes it to where if you play with a particular character, you can no longer play with that character if you continue in that game mode. They took away your right to choose because they want you to play how they want you to play. This game was fundamentally bad on all aspects. Because if you sit there and say that, well, the shooter part of it is fine, and it's like, well, it was average. And even then, it's an uninspiring average of a first-person shooter. So because of that, you could criticize that essentially that being as lackluster as it is could account for the terrible visuals, the terrible visuals, as well as the overall maps being uninspiring and whatnot. It just having basic shooter mechanics isn't a positive. It's just what it should have because it's a first-person shooter. It's a hero shooter at that. So it just having functioning shooter mechanics doesn't mean good. It just means that you at least shouldn't fuck that up. But it's like, if you look at something like Overwatch and go, well, it's 1,000 times better, let alone something like the Marvel Rivals, where it's like, I want to play that. Dude, you're so fucking dumb. So I'm going to end on this note to where I was like, yeah, I've been rambling for too long. But yeah, this was beautiful. I came home and I saw this news break out and I was like, dude, I gotta do something about this. This is a monumental moment in gaming history, and people need to understand and respect that. And I hope and pray that this echoes the correct way, and we get more games that are meant to be that. Video games, not virtue signaling anything, but games, because they see and they recognize and they understand the massive failure that Concord is. This is beyond Anthem. This is beyond I'm trying to think. Cyberpunk launching terrible. Fucking No Man's Sky launching terrible. Those, and then don't compare those games, because those games were able to fix themselves. Because the only thing wrong with Cyberpunk was it was a buggy mess. Only thing wrong with No Man's Sky is that it had no content. It got those things, and then we moved the fuck on. People like Cyberpunk, and it had a fucking anime. People like that too, but I got my own feelings about that. And you got No Man's Sky, which is an enjoyable game. It's just Minecraft with space and aliens and shit, and it is fantastic. And then they tried to make Starfield, and Starfield couldn't do that. And No Man's Sky is still pulling numbers, while Starfield is just a buggy mess. Bethesda. But Jesus Christ. This is the shit that, oh man. To all the developers, just a final note, to all the developers and all the people who sit there and feel sorry for all of the people that are essentially going to be affected negatively by this happening to this game or in the studio, hey, shut up. These people knew what the job was. These people were aware of what it is that the game, they have more access to the community that can accept any type of original IP better than any other form of entertainment. This isn't something to where this was the brainchild of one person who got a camera crew together. This was a whole team that was working on a game for 8 fucking years that had not once poked their head up out of the sand to see that everything that it is that they wanted to shove into this game was unappealing, unattractive, and unlikable. And then they released it anyway. And they kept confirming and talking to their higher ups and letting them know this is going to be a hit. This is going to be a hot commodity. Promote it, promote it, promote it. We need cinematics every fucking week because people are just going to love it. Oh, I wonder how many fucking servers they got. I wonder if they looked to what happened with Overwatch 2 and was like, oh, we're going to need way more servers than they did because we're going to just have so many fucking players. I wonder what the conversations were behind the walls in Sony when they sat there and they was just shilling and lying to these people about all the shit that they were going to get, and they just had to eat it up. I truly wonder. But it's like, I do not feel sorry for them. I don't feel sorry for them at all, because just because they get fired doesn't mean anything. Hopefully people with actual talent will get hired, and then we'll get better games. And then finally, I'll want to play something. But until that happens, nah. But whew, great to be a part of these massive things happening within history. So, hey, at least we were there to witness this shit. Can't wait to tell my grandkids that later on. It's like, man, you'd never guess. There was a game called Concord that came out. They'd be like, what the fuck is that? And be like, man, let me tell you what happened. That shit was crazy. There was just so much purple lipstick. It's the weirdest thing. They had a fat dude who was fat and he wore a big old blue coat. And it was just terrible. It was terrible. These horrible nightmares. These are our war stories. We didn't get to go to Vietnam, so we got this shit. Yeah, it's a fair trade as far as I'm concerned. All right, that's it.